So I've had a number of paid audits come my way over the past month, and the one connecting thread of every single one of these audits is that some things have come up where AI is not worth actually implementing. So in this video, what I'm going to do is describe when AI systems won't actually save your operations. So I'm going to go through 10 points here, and these 10 points are going to describe 10 situations that have actively come up over the past month about this. So on this first one, you'll see that you can't use AI to manipulate human activity. So what do I mean by this? So on the client side, there is no AI system that speeds up how fast clients will actually do the work that you want them to do. So this goes for every single coaching company. This goes for every single service company that requires work to be done on the client's side. For example, signing documents, if it's a legal company, giving you raw and creative content or bits and bobs that you need to go in, refine, edit, and make good before you actually send it out as a deliverable. Or 3, reviewing scripts and extra work that you've also built on your end. On your team side, there is no AI system that speeds up how fast your team does the only 1 or 2 manual tasks that are left after AI has wiped every other thing. Some people are just rubbish at doing, and those people tend to be the people that you've been dragging along for a little while because they are the bottom 20% who make the top 20% wonder, why the hell does this person work here? They often end up on pips. You often end up having to give them stupid rules in order to do certain things. And you also have to basically end up firing them at some point, which is just naturally what happens when you have low performers who are inside of a system where you've done the best that you can to make everything work the way that it is intended, and they're still messing things up. So that's the first one. When having a conversation works better is tied to number 1 and is very similar, but also a little bit different. The client that doesn't want to have their face on camera shouldn't have been a content client in the first place. The client that will sabotage themselves will complain about everything. The client that's going AWOL right now is going AWOL because they're about to churn. Sending automated reminders does not mitigate their churn risk, and none of these can be solved with any other AI system. AI will never defeat human psychology. You can only manage client-based psychological problems of 2 things: direct conversation and ICP management. Picking the right people to talk to and saying the right things at the right times. That's literally it. So for example, designing specific conversational scripts, for example, sales scripts, onboarding call scripts, or just things that need to be mentioned on those calls or in those situations, so that you've ticked the box of, okay, this person knows what they need to be doing. This person also knows the situation that they find themselves in and what's required of them. And number 2, ICP management, selling the right people. So I've actually had a client situation happen in the past, I would say 2 months, 2.5 months, where, and this wasn't my client, this wasn't me, this was my client's clients, essentially. They are a company that builds funnels for influencers, and some of the influencers that were signed were influencers that didn't want to make more money through the lead magnets and products that were being sold off of their Instagrams, but they wanted just fame. They just wanted followers. So when it's a very expensive service that doesn't really have much of a pull unless you're trying to grab ROI from the service, and you don't care about the metrics that actually contribute to the ROI of the service, then it's just it's just a big mismatch. So if the clients start to think another 20K, another 15K, another 30K came out for, this month or a quarter of work, why the hell am I even paying this money? Or I'm not really feeling any difference in my life. It's because what that person's goals were not aligned with the service of the company that was actually doing the work. Therefore, selling the right people is oftentimes better than building a system that helps people become more famous, helps people get more followers, if all of the systems right now are geared towards making more money. And that's been inside of the marketing, it's been inside of the sales scripts, and it's been how the current operators are doing things. When you have to change the premise to fit somebody else inside of the business, building AI for that is not as good as just removing the initial premise in and of itself. So that's number 2. Number 3, when you don't know your own processes. Now, actually going through the paid audit process is one way of actually finding that information out. But what I mean is a bit differently. If you can't vividly describe what you do, then all of the decisions, judgments, blockers, and reasons why you do things, which all go into your automations and your AIs and your systems, can't get captured. Meaning whatever you build will be too divorced from reality. You simply won't use the systems because they'll feel too foreign to the way that you work. This is for people who, this is very much a skill issue type thing. And when I say skill issue, I mean you currently don't have a good enough understanding of this part of your processes yet. Now, in my situations, that can be solved with one of two things. Either one, sign the right people, and two, speak to the right people. So maybe the person who is the main point of contact in my situation doesn't have a good understanding of this process, or maybe you as the founder who's trying to audit your own processes, you don't know how well this works in and of themselves, but maybe the head of client fulfillment does, and they're closer to the process, or the operations lead knows, or the head copywriter knows, or insert job title here knows the process a lot better. They've refined the process, they've iterated on the process, they wrote the SOPs. Have that conversation with them. If you can't define the processes that actually need to be eliminated and then automated and delegated as well, then the process of building AI for things just isn't going to work for you. Number 4, when people want to automate around problems they don't understand. You can't automate a process that the founders aren't sure they're going to be doing or not. And current client, for example, and this is basically an example of my own, is this client is a sales agency that wants to tie cold email, cold calling, and LinkedIn outreach together, and they want it all automated. But they aren't sure how LinkedIn warm up should work, what the order of operations for SDR work is. Should they do a reactivation campaign on the existing CRM first? Should they do warm calls on the cold email leads first? Should they do warm calls on the LinkedIn leads first? How should cold calling start from day 0, even though there's a longer ramp time there? So understanding the synchronicity in and of itself is something that me personally, with the clients that I work with, I will help them do, simply because this is process management, and process management is what automations around processes and AI around processes all is encompassed by. You can't just be a tech monkey who's just going to build whatever it happens. A lot of the stuff that I do is very operational in essence as well. But if you're automating around something that actually isn't a concrete process because it's just not existed for long, it usually means just wait a little bit. Have the people who are running the thing run into a couple of iterations themselves, and then get to a point where they know a little bit clearer what the problems are, and everything else is better. It's like the target awareness thing where it comes to marketing in general. There's the people who are most aware, the people who are product aware, the people who are solution aware, the people who are problem aware, and then the people who are completely unaware. You don't really sell to unaware people. You kind of just create stories for these people, and then they just live their life until they run into a problem, and then they become problem aware, and that's when the sales process essentially starts for them. So in the same situation, when people want to automate around problems they don't understand or they're just unaware of, you kind of just have to wait, and then problems will appear, and then that will turn into things that will then end up becoming part of the list of things that need to be automated. Number 5, when the business model is trash. Some business models are just bad. They're just terrible, awful for scale and awful to run. And when you hear it, some of the times you just think, no, it's just too hard. So I've audited businesses in the past that are everything for everyone shops. Some of them work hourly, some of them work on retainers, and it's kind of just like a flat retainer with a ton of scope creep involved in them. But any AI gains that you would want would actually be less effective than just running a different offer. And this is the order, insofar as for service-based businesses at least, that I would always recommend having people run. Number 1, one service and one niche. If the thing that you are doing, you have done effectively for 20 different companies, and the top 5 companies all belonged to one type of industry, just go after that industry, because the likelihood is you're going to absolutely smash it for that industry. One of my close friends, or a couple close friends, run a company that does residential solar lead generation, meaning they help solar installers get more installation projects in residential homes. So it's literally just Facebook ads to people in the public who want solar panels on their roofs. That's it. One service, one niche, and they have been absolutely ripping. They've like 61 to 80x to their company in like 24 months. It's insane. And they've got a bunch of AI to boot. Number 2, one service and multiple niches. So if you do one thing for a bunch of other people, it's a little bit less less good than one service and one niche, but it's still better than multiple services and one niche. Multiple services and one niche is a little bit better than multiple services and multiple niches, because at that point you're not really a company, you're a freelancer at that point. So if we're going to put this in, marketing terms, cold calling for elective dental surgeons, number 1. The script's going to stay the same. You're going to improve the script with every single client that you get, and the nth client ends up better than the first, second, and third clients. everything just improves and compounds on itself, and all of the problems and all of the iterations and all of the scale is just very, very predictable. It's just a very easy business to run. Cold calling for healthcare companies. So let's say hospitals, private surgeons, private nurses, physio, all of them. You just do cold calling for all of them. Well, the scripts are always going to be different, and the work's always going to be different. The offers are also going to be pretty different as well. So it's just a good thing that the cold calling is the only thing that's being done. Then you have marketing for elective dental surgeons. So maybe these dental surgeons need content as well as some SDR work, and you do some cold email on the side. Well, it's three things. It's a little bit more complex, but it's still the same elective dental surgeon. It's still the same offer. It's still the same ICP. A lot of what's being done insofar as the heavy lifting when there's multiple services is oftentimes setup, but setup happening once in three different ways is fine, especially if everything downstream from that is fine. Then you have marketing for healthcare companies, and that's just a ball ache. Now you're just an everything for everyone shop, and anything that you decide to put AI on, AI will only ever touch a couple of times. And that's really the key here. Whenever a system is being automated, the number of times that system runs is equal to or is correlated to how effective that system is at improving the capacity of the entire process. So if a system runs through, let's say, 5 steps, and then you have another system that happens after that system that runs through 10 steps, and then another system that runs through that runs for 5 steps. So you got a 5, then you got a 10, then you got a 5. If the 10-step process in the middle runs every single day, 17 times a day, and gets fully automated, then you're automating 170 different things every single time that it runs, which means that you're getting way better bang for your buck than if that system was just one of like 5 different pipelines, and that pipeline in and of itself runs only 5 times a month. Well, you're automating one small element 5 times a month. You're not getting anywhere near the benefit as a person who's automating a system that runs 170 times a week. So that's kind of where a trash business model will always kind of clamp you there. Moving on, unclear separation of work. At scale, you need well-defined roles. You simply need well-defined roles. Most business owners that come to me that want to automate because they are doing everything, but they have team members who can do half the business owner's job, and the team owners have the actual skills. AI works only alongside delegation. So you need to basically build the business for its future state in this sense. So one of the best examples of companies that if I was in a different person's body, I would probably run this company, would be email marketing agencies, because all you're doing is you're designing emails. This is for ecom companies. You're designing emails, you are writing copy for those emails, and then you are adding them to Klaviyo, and then you're sending them out. That is 3 people for one job. All you would do is just stack these 3 people with as many clients as they can handle, and then hire another set of 3 people and stack them with as many clients as they can handle, and then go on and on and on until everything is good to go. At that point, it's one service for one type of company. So you get the benefits of every single automation running as many times as it possibly can. And it's already defined for scale. So even if you're at the lowest level and you only have 3 employees versus you're at the highest level and you have 300 employees, the business basically looks the same. It's the same business from the start to the end. And that's because well-defined roles make the AI work way better because delegation is so well-defined. So that's what unclear separation of work gives you. Then you have when existing processes include bloat or missing pieces. So this is the next one. A quality checking step that doesn't actually happen should be eliminated. Yes. A quality checking step that needs to happen because results show that clients always need very basic and time-consuming changes should be defined and then automated. So in one case, it's a system that doesn't need to exist, should not be in the question of, okay, we need to automate this. And then the other question or the other situation is when there is actually a missing piece of the puzzle here. There is a whole section of judgments and decisions and actions that need to have taken place, where if we don't have these, we shouldn't actually proceed. So getting those down first makes the most sense, and then running through the ways to automate them is the next thing there. Next up, when you want to automate around archaic tools. So the best example that I have in recent memory is school. So if there's no good endpoints, there's no Make/Zapier integration, and there's no API, it means you're making Claude Code or whatever agent you're running do crazy nonsense. So one of the one of the things that I'm trying to solve for right now is basically having a client build many chat sequences, custom coded, fully operable many chat sequences through the drag and drop builder inside of the browser. So imagine you're working with a bunch of influencers and you do everything in ManyChat. ManyChat's API is terrible. ManyChat's MCP is also terrible. So the way to automate this part is to drag and drop. Every single step goes here, then here, then here, then here, then here. Because there are no real good endpoints, and in this case they have an API, we're just going to assume that they don't have any good endpoints. Because there aren't any good endpoints, there aren't any good Zapier or Make automation steps that can be used to actually build stuff in the drag and drop builder, and there's no webhooks that can help you build stuff in the drag and drop builder. The solution is using something like Browserbase, Playwright, Botosaurus, Claude in Chrome, using some sort of browser automation tool to basically do the drag and drop stuff on your behalf. That requires a ton of time. It uses up a ton of tokens, which means it costs a lot to do and is just wholly ineffective if there are other tools out there that are better than ManyChat, which expose the drag and drop builder to their requisite APIs. It just means that when you want to make automations run around tools that aren't designed to be automated, you end up running into problems. And when you run into those problems, you end up having to come up with really, really wild solutions, which start to affect how high effort and how high impact in relevance to that effort the actual build would be. Which takes me on to this one right here, which I believe is number 9. It's number 9. When using AI is high risk. A recent client of mine is an investment fund and has to sign incoming agreements as well as send outgoing agreements. So they have to sign papers and they also have to send papers. Using AI to write the agreements is a bad idea because these are legal documents. And using automation to auto send an unchecked drafted agreement is also a very, very high risk, bad idea. So for the sake of quality around mission critical steps, it's less feasible to have automations run every single process. So you can either fully automate a process. So you can fully automate a process. You can have human in the loop, just be a yes, no button, or you can cut a process up and the middle of the process can just be human activity that has to be done by a human. In this case, with the legal document, this is basically the number 3. It can't be 1 or 2, because if you, for whatever reason, have someone create a full legal document from a scope and then send it off without anything happening, then you're just going to get it straight back from whoever it was that wants to sign it. And you're probably also going to miss a bunch of clauses that you know shouldn't have been missed. This is why lawyers exist. And this is one of the examples of when AI is high risk. And there are other situations where, for example, a lot of judgment is concerned, where using AI to go through the entire process without capturing the judgment effectively in different ways, shapes and forms is also high risk. And for number 10, sometimes the effort for the solution isn't worth the squeeze. So I value my implementations based on a matrix: impact, effort, risk, and feasibility. So for example, if I'm building an onboarding flow for a client, oftentimes it's a high impact, low effort, low risk, and very feasible thing that can be built. If I'm building out a custom coded dashboard, oftentimes it's high impact, high effort, low risk, and very feasible. If I'm building out a custom agent that's going to do 90% of a single job title's work, that's high impact, high effort, high risk, and sometimes isn't feasible. So high effort, low impact, and high risk builds, which is like the trifecta of nonsense, are systems where the juice just isn't worth the squeeze. And oftentimes I just say, listen, this is something that can be built. This is a solution to some of your problems, but it's just not worth building right now. There are always higher impact and lower risk implementations that save more people time than the fancy custom coded internal app you want to build that only helps 2% of your staff. Straight up. So to summarize, these situations are when AI systems won't save your operations. You can't use AI to manipulate human activity. When having a conversation works better than having AI, it makes more sense to just have and to narrate and control that conversation. When you don't know your own processes, building stuff's going to be a lot harder for you. When people want to automate around problems that they don't understand, it's very, very similar to the previous. It's not going to help you out either. When the business model is trash, fix the business model. Don't think about AI. Just do a better business. Like, that's just the easiest way to get around that. When there's unclear separation of work, it helps to define the roles and the hats before building AI across everything. AI plus delegation is the most important thing there. When existing processes include bloat or missing pieces, you either need to remove the bloat or add the pieces and then think about how the automations are going to go in place. When you want to automate around archaic tools, it often means you should just leave things to manual activity or use different tools that speak to automations and AI, and because they have their own REST API or they have webhooks or they have Make and Zapier integrations, leave it to those, switch tools around, use different things. I will actively recommend new tools for different people in those situations. And then number 9, when using AI is high risk. And number 10, when the effort for the solution just isn't worth the squeeze. So if you like this video, I'm going to put out a couple more videos that are based on this, and some of the other things that you would have seen on my profile, you can view either here or here, and I'll talk to you on the next one.